We live in a world where most of the products that we consume or use are made in a factory. In most factories, they use an assembly line. An assembly line is a series of workers and machines by which a succession of identical items are progressively assembled. In the capital city of Jackson, Mississippi, we had an incredible assembly line of coaches. Coaches like Anna Jackson, Wayne Brent, Luther Riley, and Thomas Billups, who helped make some of the greatest basketball players this state has ever seen. Players like James Hollywood Robinson, Mo Williams, Juanita Ward, and Monta Ellis, just to name a few. Where were these players assembled and made? At a place we call the JPS Basketball Factory. Coaches. We can't not talk about great coaches in the state of Mississippi without mentioning this young lady's name. She was born in January 8, 1940, Kosciuszko, Mississippi. She coached at Jackson Murrah High School, where she won 692 games with only losing 167 games. She won 9 5A state championships. She is no question the standard. She is no question the GOAT. She is no question the OL, which means the original legend. Please welcome Miss Anna Jackson. How you doing, Coach Jackson?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
All right. Listen, Coach Jackson, listen. There's your bio, to be honest with you, just had too many things to list. So I just tried to I just capsulized it, because if not, I could have taken 30 minutes on your introduction. Is that all right? Did I capsulize it? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
When you talk about women's sports and women's basketball, women's coaching, you're the standard. You know, I coined you the original legend. You know, I didn't call you the OG, because I ain't gonna give you the original gangster. You're the original legend. Everybody looks up to and talks about Anna Jackson. When you are the standard for something, how would that make, just tell us a little bit how that would make you, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel great, because I consider myself one of the leaders and probably one of the older coaches. Even at that time, I was older than most of the coaches, young female coaches. I feel like I have paved the way for a lot of young coaches in my coaching and exposing my teams to the various states in the United States. We travel a lot, and I think that helps in molding young adults, whether they're athletes or just regular students.
With that being said, so who were some mentors that you looked up to in coaching?
I was hired at Linell High School. That's my first job, and it was a physical education teaching job. At that time, female coaches were not paid. Coach L.T. Smith, who was one of the winningest football coaches and athletic director at Linell at that time. The female coach, one of the few in the Jackson area at that time, was Coach Sadie McGee. She was one of the winningest female coaches, and at that time, what they called the Big 8 state for African American schools and teams. And she, along with Coach Smith, encouraged me to work with the basketball team. I didn't coach on the court, but I stayed around the game as the scorekeeper, and I traveled with the team and to help mentor some of the young ladies that was playing at that time.
When you were in high school, did you play basketball?
I played high school at what they called then a Talent County Training School. Mm-hmm. It is now Kosciuszko High School, but the building that I attended is the community center in Kosciuszko.
Well, you know, it's interesting you say Kosciuszko because obviously we know who the second most famous person besides Anna Jackson that came out of Kosciuszko is Oprah Winfrey.
Absolutely.
And my sister-in-law actually lived in Kosciuszko, so I'm kind of familiar with those red dirt hills back there.
Absolutely.
In Kosciuszko. What position did you play?
I played guard.
Okay.
At that time, it was six-man basketball.
Okay.
You know, you probably don't know anything about that.
I sure don't.
You had 3 forwards and 3 guards.
Okay.
And the guards only defended and passed the ball across the midcourt line to the forwards. And they scored the baskets.
So you were a guard and you weren't allowed to score?
No.
Wow.
Not unless I switched sides of the court.
That's interesting. Did you ever switch sides of the court?
No.
Wow, that's interesting. You know what? I've never heard of that. You know, and I consider myself a basketball expert, and I've never heard of six-man basketball. Wow. Let me ask you this: how did that, becoming into coaching, and then having played the game yourself, and not having quote unquote scored, like just playing six-man, how did that translate for you, like as far as with going into regular 5-man basketball where you had to, where everybody was able to score and different things like that?
Well, before 5-man basketball, they had 2 rovers, but 2 players from each team could cross the line. We still had, sometimes you have 8 on the floor. And that was because back in the day, they thought females were not physically strong enough to run the basketball court the same as boys.
Do you remember exactly when that changed?
I want to say it changed around the late 70s, maybe. About the time I started coaching, we were strictly 5-man.
When you said you started at Lanier as an assistant, is that correct?
Yes.
And how many years did you do that before you got before you went to Murrah?
Well, I was there until massive integration, which was 1970 February, and then I went to Murrah. And at that time, they cut women's basketball out completely.
And so when did they bring it back?
It came back about 3 years later because one lady who came here from the Delta, whose daughter had played basketball there, she had to get, I think it was like 500 signatures in order to take it to the Jackson School Board at that time and to get it approved that we could play basketball again.
Wow, that's awesome. So much history, in the sense that, I never knew that. 1970, I was just a toddler.
Absolutely.
I was 1 year old.
Absolutely. That's why you still have us around to get this information from us before we leave.
And I think it's important. I think it's important because all of these young ladies, that is so powerful because now you see all of these young ladies who are getting scholarships to colleges, getting their scholarships paid for. But if it wasn't for the pioneers like yourself and this lady from the Delta, who knows when they would have been able to play again. So we just thank you. Just take that time to just say thanks, for that. When you talk about the latest, the newest coach that we have right now, you cannot go into talking about coaches without talking about this young lady. A lady who is a native of Jackson, Mississippi, who is now the head coach of Jackson State University. Her bio is just too long for me to even go over. She was an assistant coach at USM, La Tech, Louisiana Lafayette, New Orleans. She played at USM. She played at Hines. She led Mississippi JUCO in rebounding, second in scoring. She is a 2-time SWAC Coach of the Year, 2-time Box Toro National HBCU Coach of the Year. She coached the first ever JSU player to be drafted by the WNBA, Amisha Williams-Holiday. She is what I call a new standard, a new GOAT, and a new legend. Please welcome to this show, this documentary, Miss Tomekia Reed. How you doing, Coach Reed?
Thank you so much for that. Doing well. How are you?
Doing great. Talk to us a little bit about, you played for Coach Jackson. And obviously, you being the coach that you have, everywhere you've been, Hines Junior College, wherever you've been as a head coach, winning follows you. Playing for someone like Ms. Jackson, Coach Jackson at Murrah, who won 9 state championships, and you're clearly on your way, obviously winning 3 SWAC championships at the collegiate level. How has she been an influence, a mentor, for your career?
Coach Jackson, she's a winner. She's a winner at heart. And one thing about being a winner, you have to care about people and love people. And that's what she showed us early. That's what she instilled in us. Just a lot of care, a lot of love, and a lot of toughness. And an extreme amount of discipline is what she instilled in us. And all the way back to, we couldn't wear our shorts with our strings hanging out. Our shirts had to be tucked in. I think sometimes our jackets had to be tucked in our pants, our sweatsuit jackets. It's just a lot of discipline just that was off the floor that carried onto the floor. And those things are the foundation to winning and to being a champion. I truly believe a champion is not about wins and losses. It's not about winning games. It's about who you are and how you carry yourself. And that's what Coach Jackson instilled in us early on.
Well, let me ask you this, because, obviously I've coached for a long time myself and have coached in this era. And now in this era, obviously, as well as I do, kids have changed, per se. They're not raised the same. How have you been able to take those foundational principles and translate it into this era, this generation?
Again, you have to lead with love, and I think you have to meet players where they are. The generations have changed, the era has changed, but you have to meet them right where they are. If you don't, you'll lose them. And I think that's really important, and that's what I strive to do when I began my relationships during the recruiting process of my student athletes. And so I just think that's really important. Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care, and that's what that's what I lead by. And again, that's just something that Coach Jackson taught me early on. When I lost my mom in high school, I wanted to quit. And had I quit, I wouldn't be where I am right now. Not just quit basketball, I wanted to quit school, I wanted to quit everything. And I had Coach Jackson behind me, encouraging me, motivating me, and just showing a lot of love. Go at your pace. We're not gonna rush you to get back on the floor. Go at your pace. And that meant everything to me. And we, so that's important. Lead with love, meet players where they are, and help build them to where you want them to be.
Tomekia, going forward, there's been a lot of talk. Obviously, what you're doing at Jackson State right now is really kind of unprecedented. You just went through a season where you won, not only won 18 straight regular season SWAC games, you went on to the tournament, and then you played, you gave LSU all that they could handle, where another coaching legend, obviously, Kim Mulkey, says some very nice things about you, and it's obviously you hear rumors and different things, and with you being a legend there at Jackson State, you being you're a kid, you are a young lady, a young coach that I have a daughter that's 16 years old, and although she may not want to get into basketball, but you're the next face of, let's just be honest, of young black coaches, young black women coaches. What would you say that you have to do? How do you like carrying that mantle because you have a mantle, I believe it, especially coming from JPS, coming from the HBCU, where the goal, let's face it, the great HBCU coaches usually, a lot of times in this era, move on to Power Fives and higher. How do you feel carrying that mantle?
You know, it's a phenomenal feeling to do it in our community, in the community in which I grew up. And, you know, it's really important, the message at this point that we're trying to send. We just want to, you know, give an opportunity for players on all levels to be successful, and to be able to reach the highest, whether it's from HBC or Power 5, being able to reach the highest platform possible. You know, that's the opportunity we hope to afford our student athletes. But it's a phenomenal feeling. It's a great experience, an awesome opportunity to do it right here in Jackson, Mississippi, where I was raised. And to hear Coach Jackson say she had applied for some jobs and, you know, Murrah was needed, is where she was needed. It says a lot. You know, after our run this past season, I had some really big time interviews, and didn't get some of those jobs. Some I was offered, but I just didn't feel like that was the right platform for me. So to carry that mantle, I feel like it's more work to be done. You have coaches at every level who has a language that they speak, a message that they want to get across. And Dawn Staley, the platform she has and the message that she gives across the board. You have coaches at every level, and I'm just really honored to be able to help speak that language here at an HBCU on our level, hoping to reach, you know, many people in the country with the message that we're trying to send.
You did something this year. You helped a young lady this year do something that hadn't been done in 20 plus years. Tomekia Williams-Holiday getting drafted and went to the WNBA 25th pick, I believe the Indiana Fever. Talk to us a little bit about how did that make you feel? I mean, I actually saw the draft party and I saw the excitement and everything. And Tomekia was, I know, a last cut of the Indiana Fever, and she went all the way to the end. Talk to us about the importance of that and how that can help, you know, student athletes, you know, in coming to HBCUs in the future.
You know, it was really nerve-wracking. When Tomekia came to Jackson State, I knew she was a pro. And I wanted her to receive all, accolades and accomplishments and opportunities that she could possibly receive. I didn't want Jackson State and HBCU to hinder her from her dream. And so for me, we did a lot of things to kind of promote her throughout her time at Jackson State. Obviously, skill development was huge. That's something we really focus on, the skill development and character development and making sure she's a great student. But also we wanted to promote her in terms to be able to have recognition by the WNBA. Doing social media exposes of her and just putting her out there as much as we could, because why have a transfer portal? Why have an opportunity to recruit top players in the country when you can't give them an opportunity to play professional basketball? So now, that we were able to reach that benchmark it's amazing, because now it opens the door for more players to come to HBCUs, more top players to come, knowing that they can get drafted if they put in the work. So seeing her go pro, get drafted in the WNBA was just a feeling that I can't even explain to you. I was so happy for her. I was happy for her family, because it was a dream come true for her. And for me as a coach, year after year after year, just wanting her to have this opportunity and, selling her every opportunity I could sell her, and calling all the WNBA coaches, trying to get coaches into our gym, to watch us work out. And to see it all come true is just an amazing experience and opportunity for her. She was one of the last ones to get cut. But like I told her, she's a trailblazer. History was made with her. And she wasn't the only one to get cut. You know, it was a lot of top Power 5 players who got cut before her. Players who led the country in scoring got cut before her. You know, so but I told her, no one can ever take that experience away from you. It helps grow Jackson State program, but it also helps grow HBCUs in the country programs. And so I'm just happy for her being that trailblazer.
I'm just honored to sit between two, and I say this with all sincerity, two legends, because I see now one who has been a trailblazer, who has been someone who someone like yourself can look up to, and then now I see a new trailblazer. You know, it's kind of like you always had certain things that was been a staple, and then you have new and improved, and so we have a new and improved. Tell me how, because there's going to be somebody coming behind Tomekia Reed. How do you feel you can be what Anna Jackson was to you? What would you tell the next and now upcoming Tomekia Reed?
You know, one of the words that just stick to me the most is, classy and style. And that's what Coach Jackson was. She's extremely classy with a lot of style. And that's what we had to be, classy and with style. And be who you are, be organic, do it your way, but do it the right way. And that's what's really important. And that's what Coach Jackson talks about all the time, doing things the right way. And that's what I will talk to a up-and-coming coach looking to be where we are. I'm nowhere near where Coach Jackson is. I'm trying to get there. I just want to be a vessel to carry the torch, and to help enlighten and develop and bring more on board. But that's my message. Be who you are. Be organic. Be true to you, and do things the right way. And don't be afraid to borrow and steal and make it your own. That's important. You have to be able to go out, get what works, and make it your own, and look at what doesn't work. That helps you as well. I remember Coach Jackson telling me that some years ago. You can learn both ways. You can learn from what works and what doesn't work, But the main thing is always be willing to learn. And so that's what I would tell the next upcoming coach.
Well, listen, I'm telling you, this has been phenomenal. I mean, you can't beat what we've had here. The history, the wins. I mean, I just feel wins. I mean, like, not only do I feel the wind, I feel wins. And so I want to give you the same opportunity I gave Coach Jackson. Just share with us anything you would just like to leave with people, whether it be about your life, whatever. Just, your last words.
I would say, challenges are going to come. Everybody is faced with a challenge. How you handle that challenge, how you meet that challenge head on, determines who you are as a person and determines where you end up in the future. And you have to be okay with having those rocky moments. The rocky moments are the ones who make you stronger. I talked about earlier how I lost my mom in high school, lost my brother when I was an assistant coach at Jackson State. He was murdered in South Jackson, and lost my dad when I got the job at Jackson State. And it's just been a rocky time. But in the midst of it all, God is a great God, and he's been so good. And I would encourage anybody to use those rocky moments to smooth out your rough edges. Because if you just keep going, it's joy on the other side. And, and another thing, to our JPS students, to our community in Jackson, I mean, anything is possible. You don't have to leave your city to be successful. You don't have to leave the area in which you grew to do great things. You can do it right here. You can do it right here and be a role model for the kids that are watching us. And so that's my message. Accept the challenges. Don't be afraid of the rocky moments. Use those to make you stronger. And success is where you're grounded, where your feet are. And if that's here in Jackson, it's go time. You have to go get it.
Title IX has been an instrumental facility for women athletics. Celebrated 50 years this year. But we're still almost 50 years behind for providing for female athletes from top to bottom, from high school, middle school, summer league. In the summer league, most of the coaches are male. In most high schools in Mississippi, so many of the girls' coaches are still males. Title IX has really come out this year, okay. Weight facilities, dressing room facilities, we still need improvement. A long ways to go. I know Tomekia has 10 years to catch up. She got to catch up. But the fight is still on. And young female coaches are going to have to step up. It's all right to ask for what you need. It's all right to get threatened. It's okay to say, well, if you don't want this job, you have to go someplace else. That's just a threat. I tell all young coaches that Title IX is your attorney. You don't really need to hire one. Just call that number. You may not know they're on it, but they're gonna get on it. They've been here to Jackson. They got me when I was athletic director, they came. I didn't know what they was coming for. I knew we didn't have what we needed for women. And when they left here, we still don't have what we need for women. And I know our athletic director is a young, energetic man, and I know he's gonna pave the way for the young women in Jackson to have what they need to be successful in the future. I have that confidence in him, and I have that confidence in our new he isn't new, and Dr. Green is our superintendent for Jackson Public Schools. I know they know the needs, and I know they're going to work to improve the quality of play and facilities for the females in Jackson, and hopefully for the state of Mississippi.
Coach, talk to us about your time at Murrah, when you played there, how good you were, and the teams during that time at Murrah. Talk to us a little bit about that.
My time at Murrah was just so awesome. It was electrifying. We were like mini celebrities, we had the Wheaties box, one of our pictures on the Wheaties box. Coach Jackson had us traveling all around the country, playing basketball. We were ranked in the top 10 in the country several times. We had a powerhouse. And Coach Jackson, every team that played for her will always come back to make the current team better. We will always play against really tough college basketball players, really tough, elite players who had won championships. It was like the brand was there, the expectation was there, and you had to meet it every year. Or you felt like you were gonna let the program before you down. And so it was just so phenomenal to see what was being built at Murrah. Inside it, I didn't realize how special it was. But on the outside looking in, we had some really great things going. Dressing up for games, we couldn't wear the windsuits like the players wear now. We had to dress up and we had to look like something. Our hair had to be done. We would get off the bus and we would have people out taking pictures. The local newspaper would be there, the news stations would be there. We were interviewing and talking like we were college players, at the time, and we were just high school. The way we dressed, the shoes we wore, the sponsorships that we had, I can't explain to you how big time we were in high school. And the fans, the gym would be packed from the top to the bottom. People coming to see us compete, not just boys basketball at the time, but for the girls team, because we were so good. And I can remember one year we had about 5 Division I players on the team. Tomekia Rogers went to Memphis, Ebony Felder went to University of Georgia, Keisha Tardy went to LSU, Yetta Anna Bakri went to Howard, I went to Southern Miss, we had a powerhouse. And so it was just awesome to play with those type of players and to have the gym full of scouts, you know, watching us play. So definitely an experience that prepared me for where we are today. That big time environment was awesome.
It's interesting. You know, I noticed that you have been one of the best dressed coaches in the country. And so did you get that from, it sounds like you must have got that from Ms. Jackson, because I see she's still dressing a little dapper here in her younger years.
Absolutely. Coach Jackson, you know, she's a blazer queen. She's going to wear a blazer and she's going to pull on it 30,000 times during the game. All right? When she pull on that blazer, you probably about to come out. Okay? So, but definitely she, you know, she brings that classiness and that style to the floor. And so she certainly has a part in how I dress now.
When people look at you at Murrah High School and they said, Tomekia, what would they say? What kind of player would Tomekia Reed is?
A rebounder. I was a rebounder. Everybody have roles in the program, and sometimes, unfortunately, student athletes forget what their roles are. But Coach Jackson clearly identified what our roles were, but she didn't hinder us. So I knew who the scorers were, and I knew the scorers couldn't score if we didn't have the ball. So it was my job to go get the rebound. Got the rebound defensively and on the offensive end. That was something I really worked hard on. And averaging 8 to 10 points, not much, but that was enough. And that came from putbacks, just being a gritty type of player, a tough type of player, very tough. That's who I was, a tough player, growing up with all boys, playing in the backyard, bare feet, So that was what I brought to the floor. Back in the day, people compared me to Dennis Rodman. So you know who Dennis Rodman is. Yeah.
That's a big time comparison.
Oh, yeah.
My favorite players of all time.
Oh, yeah.
When you were there on the boys' side, obviously, the boys have a storied history as well. Who were some of the better players when you were there?
When I was there, Richard Bradley, Ashley Robinson, man, it was a lot of great guys on the team. Maurice Williams, he played some time there. But I just seen some different groups of guys just come and go. Damon Wallace, and my time, it was a different group of guys that came. And I mean, they just played so hard, so tough. I think the girls playing before the guys, we set the atmosphere, we set the tone, and they came on in and finished it. But it was electrifying, the moments we had with our girls and boys basketball team.
Coach Jackson, you've heard Tomekia's version of herself. Now I'd like to hear your version of Tomekia Reed as a player at Murrah High School.
She summed it up well, but then I need to give a little credit to her father. Her father was a coach. And this is a funny thing to me, but it was probably serious to him at that time. I had open practice. All the years I coached until the last year. The parents could come and watch practice. And sometimes we have a half a side of the gym almost full watching practice. And he would always tell me that Tomekia is a post player. Well, I had a 6'2", a 6'3", a 6'4". Now, what post you gonna play? Where? And I said, Tomekia is a natural 3 player. She needs to play facing the goal. So that was our argument until finally he understood her role and how great she was doing what she was supposed to do as a player. But the last time I saw him, we talked about that, and we laughed about it. And I said, the two of us made Tomekia great. I said, and I appreciate you. And he was a strong supporter of all of the players on the team. And I have to give that side and his thanks to her and molding her when she was a young girl playing in the backyard.